Hello, everybody, and thank you very much for joining me today. It's Allan Laboucan with the Rocks and Stocks News Show as another installment of our interviews with executives of junior mining companies and Sokoman Minerals. It's one of my favorites because they've been a long-term sponsor of my website, and they've gone through some important transitions that I think the market is not really understanding, but I sure wanted to get Tim on the horn because they just had some lithium news out. And when it comes to lithium, one of the key sources has started to be these Australian hard rock deposits. And Canada is in the same kind of rock and has the same kind of potential. And I think Tim and his company Sokoman are onto something serious with the lithium. So let's talk about that lithium news, Tim.
Well, always good to be with you, Allan. Thanks for having me again. Yeah, the long-awaited and over-delayed results from Phase 2 drilling at Kraken. It's funny, I won't mention names, but we were swayed from the company that we were using for our analysis for our lithium numbers by another company that swore they could give us results in 3 to 4 weeks. We were swindled. 3 to 4 weeks became, I think, 62 days before we finally got results. So that's not even close to being, a little bit off. I mean, that's just outrageous. So anyway. Here it is. We weren't holding things. We weren't sitting on them. I can show you an email trail about 14.
Oh no, don't worry about that, Tim. I care most about what that truth machine says, even if the assay lab takes a while to get it. Now, the thing that kind of stood out to me was 5.5 meters of 1.16% lithium.
Yes.
Wider intersection of 20 meters of 0.60 lithium. And that is really close to surface, starting at 46 meters downhole. Nice looking stuff, Tim. You got some other in there that look pretty good as well. It's a heck of a good start you're having on this lithium project.
Well, I think you just said something very important and very profound, Allan, and that is start. We still are, making discoveries. I mean, the other day, the cook, who also doubles as a prospector, was out for a little walk in the morning, sort of thing, in between his regular duties, and found a 4-meter wide dike behind the kitchen that we didn't know was there because it wasn't uncovered. He saw a little piece of white sort of sticking out underneath a bit of bush there, and dug it off, and sure enough and so then we brought the excavator down, and now it's a 4-meter wide spodumene bearing dike, untested, of course. So I think what people need to realize is, and I got so many messages on this. A handful were good, more were negative. Oh, these are low grade results. So 1%, you got to get 1%. Well, if they read the numbers, if they actually read the entire press release, and I'll say this again. There's a lot of people out there who shouldn't be allowed to buy stock or on a computer, for that matter, because they don't know what to do with either one of it.
Well, Tim, all they look at is the stock. If the stock's up, it's good news. If the stock's down, it's bad news. And they don't know how to differentiate. And that's why I have a show. There used to be a time, Tim, when BNN would cover the junior exploration space. The brokerage house analysts would cover the space. And they've all been abandoned. And a lot of these investors are just out there talking on websites, and they don't really know what they're talking about. You always have, no matter what you're looking for, you have to put it into the context of where you are in the exploration of that project and where you're hitting the mineralization and how much more of that do you have the potential of finding. To be at the early stages and where you are now, getting that kind of grade really close to surface is pretty damn exciting to me.
Well, not just close to surface, Allan. Pretty well all of these holes are testing beneath surface outcrops that lie within our minimum 2.2 kilometer by basically 1 kilometer wide zone of known mineralization. So these things come to surface. So, we're just testing them down plunge slightly. But, again, back to the numbers themselves, the 0.62, and like I said, you've got to do a lot of research. And obviously some people do no research, but, they think 1% is, if you don't get 1%, you're out to lunch. You go look through any number of pre-feasibility reports and things like that for several of the, I won't list them all, but there was a couple we mentioned in our press release. Their cutoff for mining is like 0.5 or better, or even lower than that in some cases. But I picked 0.5 because it's a nice round number, within which, of course, there are sections and areas that have 1%. I mean, if you compare apples,
It's the nature of any mineralized system, Tim.
Yes. So we get economic, and I use the term, referring to other people's properties, not this one yet, forward-looking statement. These numbers are there, in terms of what you need to get. So basically what some companies are planning to do is mine the dike, rush the stockpile of higher grade material to the mill, and run the other stuff after you've paid everything else off. So I mean, it just drives me crazy that people just are just so impatient. Again, this discovery is only a year old.
Yeah, and this is the second time you've been in there with the truth machine, right?
Yeah, the first time we basically went in the wintertime, which wasn't a great idea. And in fact, if I had the time back, I probably would not have drilled that program when we did, because we now know we've been over actually with an excavator and dug around some of those exposures that we did, try to get in the first phase. Probably not set up ideally, but that's it. You learn. We even learned with this latest phase. I mean, these things are there's a swarm of them. There's more than one. Some of them are 2 meters wide. Some of them are 20 meters wide. And there's obviously some folding involved. We do see that on the outcrop scale. So it's going to take us a little while to get this thing figured out. And like I said, we still don't know if we're even drilling in the best spot yet. But
and you're right, at surface, you're just poking some close to surface holes.
Yeah, at some point you got to test these things to see if they go to depth, and if they go to the left or go to the right or whatever. Make sure you're drilling it the right way and not undercut it or overcut it because you just misinterpreted the dip. We're still in that learning phase, and I think that's what people have to take with them away from this. I'm very proud of these results. Damn right I am. And we're going to Toronto. This is Friday. Monday I'm on a plane, hopefully, if things work out, that I can actually go, because there are some, I told you about what's going on, with my mom and stuff. She's not very well. But,
yeah.
Steve is still going to be there. Steve Stairs. So, this is a joint venture, the alliance with Benton. And we've got, Kathy already has us fully booked with people in the lithium space, from the geological side of things and from the financial side of things, because, the market is ripe now for lithium projects, especially new ones like this. So
well, and another thing that I think people are missing, Tim, is you guys are kind of groundbreaking in the idea that what they're finding in Australia can also be happening here in Canada. And you've got a big area there with lots of outcrop, and you've done excellent exploration to surface sample and get you're starting to roll your sleeves up, and that's what you got to do. You want to keep having encouragement to keep going and rolling up your sleeves, and that's how mines are found.
Yeah, well, the next step for this project in terms of the exploration side of things is actually ongoing. That's a joint soil survey, and if I may, I'm just going to pull up
here, let me give you the ability to, there you go, Tim. Now you can share your screen.
Okay, let me.
I always love seeing the pictures because they tell a story.
Yeah, this is the soil map, and basically what we decided to do was, there's no trees here, but there's still cover in terms of low bush and just dirt and things like that. So we decided to see if we could see this thing with some other tool, which is soil geochemistry. And soil geochemistry has long been known to work very well in Newfoundland for gold, for base metals. Of course, no one knew there was a lithium prospect, let alone a deposit in Newfoundland until last year with Kraken. So we decided to do a test survey. And if you can see my cursor,
Yep.
over the original Kraken discovery dike, which is about right here.
Yeah.
And wow, look at this thing. I mean, it lit up basically. So this is a viable tool for exploration, and it certainly corresponds very well with areas that we have tested to date. And these are new lines actually that we haven't been able to follow up with yet, but will be followed
Tim,
up.
what's the ice direction in this area?
Basically from north to south, this way.
North south. Okay.
So yeah, it's cutting basically parallel to the lines, but the dikes are actually cross-cutting. So that's what we're featuring here. And if you look at the limit of the Kraken discovery drilling just around the dike, there's no holes west of the Kraken discovery dike.
Yeah,
and
you've
look
got
at how
those.
the anomaly just keeps going. It's just
For
rolls
our
right through.
audience, Tim, those bubbles, the size of the bubble is representative of the grade in the sample.
Exactly, yes. And so as you can see, there's quite robust levels of lithium in what appears to be several, sub-parallel, and it makes sense because this is the way these dikes are trending generally. It's kind of not quite east-west, but a little bit to the northeast-southwest. And the Kraken, certainly is wide open to the west for at least a kilometer.
And look at all those bubbles. If you go directly east and west, and then you go to the south and west,
yes, yeah.
You
Like,
get
I'd be surprised.
elevated grades there.
Yeah, and like up here, up in the north, what we call the northeast dike area, which we don't have results for these holes yet, by the way. We got tired of waiting for the full batch, and that was the other part of the story. We didn't even get all of our results back either.
Oh,
After 61 days. So yeah, so I know there's a dike up here. We just have to go up and look for it. And I know.
Okay, so Tim, you reported. What did you report? Those East Dike red diamonds?
Yeah, just the drilling around the East Dike here, basically, and the summary of results basically showed multiple holes hitting multiple dikes. There was, I believe, a cross section shown. Yes, here you go. So one dike at surface becomes 3 to 4 or maybe more at depth and open as well. Like here's the 20-meter intersection in hole 15, including the 5.5 at 1. Here's another dike. The grade is low, but it was an unseen dike, and it does have 2 meters of almost 1% in it. But look at this.
When you're describing this, Tim, it almost sounds to me like a vein field in gold.
Yeah, it's not unusual. I mean, I'm sure there's probably examples somewhere where the mineralization is contained entirely within one dike or whatever. But typically these things do occur in swarms, and this is what we're seeing here. So, like I said, there are grades here that do meet. If you look at people's feasibility reports and things like that, are in excess of 1%. And this, in a lot of places, this would be ore. Now, obviously, we can't call it ore yet because this is just exploration drilling. But all the holes here have 1%, pretty much in them. So we just need to drill it out. And
well, some things that stand out to me is widespread distribution of lithium.
Yep.
A swarm of dikes, and you've got some good grades in those dikes as well.
Yeah,
you just
for sure.
Like you said, you're in the early stages. You don't find a mine off the first dozen holes.
Give us a chance. Exactly.
Exactly.
So that's, like I said, we're off to Toronto next week for a battery of meetings, and as well, there's a critical mineral show that we're attending Thursday and Friday, and actually giving a presentation. It's focused on a bunch of metals, but that's in Toronto, the 27th, 28th, and Steve Stairs and I will be there for that. Beating the streets and getting the message out there because it needs to get out. And
absolutely.
So yeah, as I mentioned, off to Toronto to meet with a bunch of people in the lithium space and in the financial space. My my desire with this is to move it forward as a separate vehicle. The markets are kind of crappy right now, so we need to see if there is indeed the appetite to move this thing forward as a separate vehicle. I mean, we can't do it ourselves. Well, we could, but we're not getting any value for it in Sokoman or Benton. And the proper thing to do with this is to spin it out. And but we also need to see if we can finance it. If we can't finance it, well then,
I don't think people are, that's another thing they might not be realizing, Tim. 100% owned lithium project. There's a lot of money out there for lithium. I mean, it's now at its all-time highs again. And there's just not enough of it. And as I said earlier, Canada has the potential to be similar to Australia. And that's becoming the most important source of lithium going forward. And to be in a mining friendly jurisdiction with an emerging discovery that you're at the earliest stages of, I think that the shareholders might want to consider the potential that they might be getting bonus shares in the lithium company that could be quite attractive.
Yeah, because one thing I will stress as well, and a couple of shareholders have mentioned this to me as well, that Sokoman is a gold company, so
yes,
stick to gold, and that is my intention. I mean, Moosehead is still our flagship, and waiting in the wings, of course, is Fleur de Lis, which we're nursing along slowly. I mean, obviously, we have to be a little bit more mindful of our expenditures going out the door these days with the market so poor. Right now we've probably got between $5 and $5.5 million cash in the bank, and we should end the year up with somewhere between 3 and 4. All hard dollars too, by the way. There's no pressure on us to spend them; it's flow through. So yeah, we'll end the year fairly healthy, and I will talk a little bit about Moosehead towards the end. But we want to maintain our gold, our golden, focus, and so the obvious thing to do is to spin it out and have it fly on its own. And
well, Tim, I think you got to remember your shareholders have been in it for a long time looking for gold, and there's a whole audience out there just for lithium. And if you had a vehicle that was just lithium with a new emerging spodumene discovery, I think it would be looked at by a whole different audience, and that would be a great way to get value out of it. But onto the gold, and Tim, I've been smiling a lot about the Moosehead project lately because when I look at these orogenic systems, what gets me really excited is when they start to hit jewelry box intersections. And you sure did with those recent results that you got from that one hole. And I think that's been an emerging discovery for a few years now. And now you're starting to get into something that's getting super exciting. Let's talk about that. What are you doing with that big hole you hit recently?
Yeah, thank you, Allan, for bringing that up. It was a little bit of a surprise. We know there's high grade yet to be found here, but I think what surprised us the most is probably the thickness of it. And so we're scratching our head, saying, okay, so what is this telling us? Because 39 meters, we haven't seen that sort of intersection. Now it's multiple veins, or is it a full repetition? And this is what we're trying to figure out, because it is important. I mean, if you're dealing with drilling through two limbs near the nose of a fold, you don't have to step out very far and you'll miss that fold entirely. Yep. And we also see evidence in this intersection, Allan, that we've just nicked the edges of veins. Like if you turn the core around, you see quartz on one side, but you don't see it on the other. Yet you can see it gradually, getting thicker and thicker, and then thinner and thinner as you go down the hole. So with VG, and in fact, 126 grams, one of these things ran. And so, as you know, with core in the box, you don't know how that was sitting in the ground. So if you've got a vein that you just nick and it's like this, well, then you need to drill left. if you got a vein that is coming this way, you drill right, or it could be above, or it could be below. So there's 360 degrees around the circle, right? So
Yeah.
I don't want to drill 4 or 5 holes and miss, because people want me to drill this thing like yesterday. I'm not doing that. I'm sorry. It took me too long to get here. And
Right.
this hole is too important to, not give it its full, its full chance to, understand the geometry here. So yes, the televiewer has been done, and it is being read priority. You don't get these things in 5 minutes later, like a Polaroid picture, and there it is. You see it. You still have to get that thing interpreted. We can't do that. Only the contractor can do that. So we're getting that apparently today. That result will come today. Dr. Collar, who's been our structural, sort of guiding light since day one, and he hasn't been here, by the way, in almost 3 years because of COVID and the restrictions on people from other countries. He's from Ireland, getting in here. So we're only now able to get him as of recently, when the government relaxed all their things. The earliest he could possibly have gotten here is when we're getting him.
And he's a structural expert.
He is, yep. And it's one thing to look at core and say, oh yeah, there's a shear zone, but you have to see this man in action. He brings over his own tools and basically puts the core in according to how it was, the angle it was drilled, and using the televiewer will be able to tell us then for sure which way these things are going. So I'm not doing anything until he says, yeah, I think your best bet is to drill this way. And I don't care what crap I get from people online who don't know anything. This is the way this is going to work. And we will probably be drilling in and around the whole 463 area somewhere around or just before the middle of November. So it's not that far away, and it's not going anywhere. So, relax.
Well, and, in my experience in the business, Tim, you sometimes you hit something that's special, and sometimes people rush into doing the next set of work and they can kill what's special, and they might have only been a few meters off of continuing understanding what's special. And just to put it into context of what these orogenic systems are like, when you're in a zone of orogenic gold, you often have to drill at 5 meter spacing to keep catching that thing and not lose it. We're talking about something that they're super high grade, but they're not very big. And you got to be careful about how you treat something like that. I get this confidence in saying this because I was in the diamond business for a long time. And if you find the right kind of diamonds, you got to test that thing properly, because you could walk away from something that is actually a mine. And so,
can I let you in on a secret?
What's that?
Well, it's probably not a secret, but anyway, hole 1, 1801, way back then, 12 meters of 45 grams. Our first attempt to follow that up, missed it. 10 meters away.
There you go.
At the time, of course, your first hole, what do you know? You don't know very much, right?
Right.
We drilled underneath the zone completely. We stepped back, and at the time, what we didn't know was that the east trend was actually dipping to the east as well. We assumed there was a vertical structure there when we.
So you got underneath, you went right underneath it.
We missed it, and I almost, lost it.
Yeah.
And I said, where the F did it go? So it can happen, and I don't want that to happen again. So, forgive me.
Well, and especially when you're down a couple hundred meters and you don't know the direction of this thing. And this could be a seminal moment in the history of this discovery in your company. You could be sitting on a swan zone there. You don't want to screw that up.
Not a chance. So, yeah, we're going to be careful. It will get drilled. Trust me.
Yeah.
And hopefully with our best shot, and we'll see what we get. But like I said, it's amazing, just how anyway, I won't go back into it again. Like I said,
No worries, Tim. I
some people just
understand.
shouldn't be allowed to buy stock. A lot of people shouldn't be allowed to buy stock.
I've been the guy on the phone that people are calling when they don't understand something, and I don't think they're understanding your lithium, and I certainly don't think that they understand that you've now made a jewelry box just hit in an orogenic system, and Swan Zone was a company maker for Kirkland Lake that got them bought out. You're just a tiny company. And if you can do it right, Tim, all the shareholders will be happy, and you'll be their hero.
Yeah, and again, do your homework, do your research. There's no guarantee this will be a jewelry box, but I like our chances.
Absolutely, and that's sort of the thing I'm always looking for in these orogenic systems, Tim, because then you want to find continuity, and you got to drill these things tight. And I can't. Since I saw those results, I've had a smile on my face every time I think about Moosehead.
Yeah, and you know what? It's too bad the market is so poor, because better times we'd probably be a little happier with share price. But we're all in this boat. But like I said, we're going to do our job, keep our nose to the grindstone, and just march ahead. We still have
that boat might be turning direction too when it comes to gold, Tim. We got a nice move today. It's up about $20 before I started the show. And, it's really been a battle between the US dollar and gold. This year, the US dollar has been going like this. And contrary to what stocks are doing, which are going like this, gold has kind of been going like this. Yeah. And that US dollar comes under pressure. It's only been going up, not because of good economic numbers. It's been going up simply because of interest rate increases. But now you've got the Federal Reserve is saying how poor a job they're doing fighting inflation. The economy's starting to roll over. Interest rates are on the 30-year mortgage are 7.7%. If they don't see that that's going to slow down the housing market, they're crazy. And I don't think it's very long before we start seeing a pivot. And when they do, gold is going to get strong, and someone like you is going to stand out, Tim, with your Moosehead project.
Well, that all sounds very good to me, Allan. And again, like I said, it is a tough market, and I appreciate that. People are a bit nervous about the future going forward. The cost. So I picked up a piece of cheese today in the store, and it might fit on 2 crackers, and it's $12. It's crazy. So I do understand that people are nervous, and when they see investments go down. I mean, we're not at our 52-week high. We're closer to our 52-week low, which a lot of companies are. I mean, we're not alone. So
yes,
but we're all in this together. I certainly feel the pain as well.
Absolutely.
So
Tim, so right now the sort of key things for Moosehead are you're getting the results of the televiewer, you're having that analyzed, then you're going to get on to drilling, right?
Yes, and I was never a huge lover of geophysics because I've had my heart broken more time by drill testing a guaranteed success.
Yeah.
We've actually just committed to doing it's a test survey. It's called the Alpha IP system, and it can see much deeper than a regular IP system, and in fact, apparently can see veins in the 2 to 3 or less than 5 meter thickness range, even stack sort of system. So that could help us a lot at Moosehead. So we just committed to doing a limited survey, a half a dozen lines, kind of over areas that we've got, obviously drill information for, the 75 zone, an area like that, South Pond, and the southern end of the eastern trend. Just to see if it works. And if it does work, it could help us focus ultimately to some of these deeper targets. This thing, the line lengths, we've actually, I think we can see down 500 meters, which is...
well, even if they don't pick up the veins, they do pick up structure quite nicely, don't they, Tim? And that's a big element of these orogenic systems.
Well, we first drill for structure.
Right.
at Moosehead, and then we look for the high grade in the structure. So exactly. And, it picks up, that's the thing with IP, it picks up chargeability and it picks up resistivity. So resistivity is your silicious zone, which are quartz veins, because we don't have a lot of silicification in the rocks outside of the quartz. So if we get any kind of a charge, a resistivity anomaly, most likely it's going to be quartz. And of course, the chargeability is going to be your shear zones and zones of sulfides, which we do see along the margins of some of these veins and some of the mineralized dikes that we do have as well. So we're going to give it a shot. We should have the results sometime by the end of November, I hope.
Wow.
In time anyway to test a couple of things on it, and yeah, we'll see what happens. But like I said, it is geophysics, and my apologies to all the geophysicists out there, warlocks, or the warlocks as I call them, wizards. We're going to give it a shot.
Well, I think you should, Tim. Even if it only highlights the structures and that helps you, because you've got drill hole data, you're going to have televiewer data, you're going to have maybe pick up some structural data at depth. That will help unravel the mystery, and I'm looking forward to our next few interviews, Tim.
Can't wait.
Good. Well, I'll let you go, Tim. It sounds like you're really busy, but let me wrap things up and we'll have a chat at the other end.
Okay, thank you.
Well, folks, there you go. I think that it's important to stress that in an emerging new discovery that a company is just getting into when it comes to lithium or any mineral for that matter, it takes some rolling up the sleeves and doing things right. And I think they've got something special there with the lithium story. I don't think shareholders are giving the company much credit for the chance to spin those assets out, which it sounds like that's a way to get value out of the asset. And then the real focus for me at Sokoman is the Moosehead project. I think they're at a seminal moment with that Moosehead project. In the past, they found lots of high grade distributed over a wide area, but now they're narrowing in on some thick intersections of super high grade, and that's the sounds of a swan zone. And these kind of things you got to do right. They've got some key work that they're doing, that televiewer work, drilling, this IP survey. I think you're going to see some great things out of that Moosehead where they've hit this jewelry box. And I think there's more to that jewelry box than anybody's given the company credit for. But that's the way things are sometimes when you're in a tough market for gold stocks. You see a lot of stocks trading at 52-week lows. But when I see a lot of good stocks trading at 52-week lows, it's often a time that the turnaround is near. So they're at a seminal moment for the Moosehead project. I think we're coming into a turnaround for the price of gold. This company with a $48 million valuation is the kind of company investors that like super high grade jewelry boxes in orogenic gold systems should be looking at. As always, do your homework, speak with your financial advisors before making any investment decisions. But I think Sokoman is one that everybody that likes high-grade gold should be looking at, and you get a lithium kicker. On that note, have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.